The cantor is not only the person who sings and executes the words of the prayers into music, but also transmits the Jewish values.
We're fortunate, we're blessed to be able to do with music things that words sometimes can't convey.
I have been available at the full range of life cycle events and have found it an extraordinarily fulfilling part of my cantorate and of my professional responsibilities.
The cantor is not just a musician for the synagogue, he often becomes a teacher, he becomes a counselor.
We're educators through our ability to make God a very real presence in people's lives.
This synagogue, and thousands like it around the world, is where Jews open their hearts in prayer to God. Hello, I'm Cantor Michael Shochet. For generations, rabbis and cantors have been leading these worship services. The rabbi interpreting the ancient words of Torah, the Holy Scriptures, and the chazan, the cantor, interpreting the ancient prayers through sacred music and chant. And music has always been an important element in connecting one's soul to God. Whether it's expressing sorrow or joy, music helps to open the gates of prayer for religious worshipers. But cantors are not just singers. They are religious leaders who devote their entire lives to Judaism and the Jewish community. And as the community has changed with the times, especially in Reform Judaism, the cantor's function and status has expanded. Today, cantors are professionally trained to work in partnership with rabbis as members of the clergy. But their responsibilities go beyond the sanctuary. Cantors reach out and get involved in all aspects of Jewish life, whether it's visiting a patient in a hospital, comforting the bereaved, or celebrating life's joyous moments. But what is it that makes someone find religion and commit their life to it? In the next 30 minutes, we'll meet cantors who have made that commitment. For them, it's a calling for today.
The most wonderful compliment I think I've ever received from a congregant was from a woman who said, "When you sing, I know that there is a God." And that has to be our goal.
And this goal is achieved when people allow the music to open up their hearts to God, whether by listening to a sacred chant of the cantor, or by singing along and clapping hands.
The goal should be, I think, to take people out of their regular arena and find some tapestry that's different, some spiritual level that, I don't know, only can be achieved through the music.
We have the ability to bring people in and to make them want to participate and to make them feel good about being Jewish.
No two cantors are alike. Just as no two congregations are alike. Cantorial styles vary from synagogue to synagogue. Cantor Jeffrey Klepper, for instance, has an informal approach. He uses guitar and other instruments to accompany the prayers.
No one has yet gotten up to dance during my Mi Chamocha at synagogue, but someday someone may be moved enough to get up and dance or bang a tambourine, and I would like that very much.
Cantor Samuel Dove Berman, however, leads a formal, more traditional service. He uses an organ and professional choir for his accompaniment.
The ability of my interpretation, together with a congregational choir, can bring beautiful music that has been composed for over 100 years, that has beautiful traditions and text to it, that should be heard in the synagogue. It's not going to be heard anywhere else.
Yet there is growing debate among cantors, rabbis, and even congregants about the kinds of music that should be sung in the synagogue. Most cantors agree the selection of music should be balanced. Congregants should be able to sing along, but at other times listen to the rich spiritual music of our time.
I think this is like a seesaw that goes back and forth. And right now we're heavy on the participation end, where the congregation wants the cantor to be the facilitator of their singing.
At the same time, I firmly believe that one can be praying without moving one's mouth, and that it is the traditional responsibility, the traditional obligation of the cantor to inspire.
Prior to the 1970s, especially in classical Reform synagogues, congregants generally sang less and listened more to music sung by professional choirs.
Congregations did participate, but there was a different balance between what the congregation did and how much they listened, what they received from the pulpit.
But the youth movement popularized Jewish folk music in the 1970s. This was easy for people to sing along with, so more and more congregants insisted on that type of music in their services. Now cantors and composers try to find the right musical balance between traditional sacred music and folk songs. Cantor Stephen Richards composes synagogue music.
The things that I wrote 15, 20 years ago, for the most part, were pieces that were aimed a little bit above the heads of the congregants. I think the things that I'm working on today, such as, in the last 10 years, such as the Ritzay and some of the other things I've done, I'm aiming more for the congregant to be a part of it.
Now, if you run out of breath,
Ben Steinberg, considered by many cantors as one of the leading Jewish composers, finds that contemporary music will last only if it has a basis in the past.
It's sort of as if we should impose a calypso style on synagogue music and say this is the sound of the future. Well, it may be a passing fad, but it will not last because it has no basis in our past. Our best music will grow from what came beforehand and will add to it the expression of contemporary times, and in that way will make a contribution to the future. This is what I believe.
No matter what they sing in the synagogue today, all cantors bring with them musical traditions that date back centuries. And part of these traditions are the musical motifs or melodies that make each service or holiday unique. It's called nusak ha-tefillah. For example, this is Rosh Hashanah nusak. And this is Shabbat Nusach. Cantor Nathan Lamb calls Nusach the musical thread that binds together the liturgy of every service.
so that if a person comes in and hears da ti da 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 dum ba 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 bum, they know it's Shalosh Regalim, and their emotional system is already ready. It's a holiday. It's either Sukkot, Shavuot, or Pesach. They can taste the matzah, they can taste the blintzes, they can have a, they can see, smell the etrog and feel the lulav. It gives them a sense of something. It's like a time clock. Da 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 da. I'm ready for Erev Rosh Hashanah, and it touches my emotional soul immediately without having to look at a word.
But where do these cantorial traditions come from? Around the 5th and 6th centuries, the liturgy of the synagogue service was expanded with intricate prayers and metrical poetry called piyutim. Jewish communities required someone who knew how to correctly chant these texts. That man became known as the chazan, who learned the chants handed down to him by an oral tradition. But it wasn't until much later, in the 19th and early 20th centuries in Eastern Europe, in fact, that the chazan gained prominence. Chazanim with magnificent voices often became stars. It was the golden age of chazanut, and worshippers would travel great distances to hear the voice of a virtuoso chazan.
The Jewish people were in great pain in years past, and they would come to the synagogue to share that pain, to have catharsis, to hear prayers of hope, to point towards the future with renewed strength.
But in Berlin and Vienna in the 19th century, a number of Jews were reforming the way Judaism was practiced to be more compatible with modern society. They built huge, magnificent synagogues and added a new sense of decorum to the services. Worship was shortened and some prayers eliminated. A new type of chazan was needed, one who would bring the music of the service up to contemporary standards. Solomon Sulzer of Vienna was one of the first to revolutionize the position of chazan. He called himself Cantor, a title borrowed from the church.
And in many respects, it does mark a turning point in the history of Jewish music and the development of the cantorate. He was a product of his environment. He was influenced by music of his environment, particularly Schubert.
Sulzer had a Western musical education. He composed synagogue music in a contemporary style. This music became extremely popular with congregations and cantors throughout Europe and eventually in America. In fact, his music is still in wide use today. But Reformed cantors in America were few and far between until the mid-1900s.
The Reform congregations, particularly in the South and the Midwest, had grown so far away from tradition that they didn't want a cantor.
But slowly, as American Jews searched inwardly for their Jewish roots, especially after the Holocaust and the birth of the State of Israel, more and more congregations wanted cantors to lead them in sacred music. This created a demand for cantors, and in 1948, the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion in New York, which had been training rabbis, opened the first cantorial school in America.
And the whole idea was to create a profession of American-trained cantors. That was the mission. We wanted to reclaim our Jewish musical heritage and prepare people for service as cantors in the American Jewish community.
All right, let's do that again. Can we get more of a line so that...
And even today, this mission has not changed. Students at the School of Sacred Music study Judaica, Jewish history, liturgy, and all aspects of traditional and Reform cantorial music. The director, Cantor Israel Goldstein, says the school's goal is
to try and produce the most rounded individual as possible, an individual who will be able to assume leadership roles in the Jewish community.
Students learn the whole width and breadth of cantorial music. They learn nusak and how to lead a traditional service.
So it's nice, yeah, it's a good piece. And it finishes off these 4 paragraphs really very nicely. And then you motor ahead into Ritzei.
And they learn music written for the Reform Synagogue.
We hope that cantors have an understanding of those notes,
those phrases, those musical nuances that goes far beyond the technical musical skills that face them on the page, namely to understand Jewish history and why a piece was written in a particular time and what kind of statement that makes.
Cantorial and rabbinical students attend many classes together, such as Jewish education, pastoral counseling, and Hebrew. When cantorial students graduate, they earn a master's degree in sacred music and are prepared to serve not just as musical leaders, but as clergy as well.
We need to develop the cantor into fully a clergy person who is able to take the musical tradition that was learned here at the school and at the same time to combine it with all the other areas of expertise that a modern clergy person requires.
Just as the rabbi's role is not someone who only leads worship, but it's a role that touches people in a variety of ways, in a wider description of what it means to be a teacher and an educator, so too the cantor.
The Hebrew Union College reached another milestone in the cantorate in 1975. That's when the college invested the first ever female cantor.
We took a chance and took a risk, not knowing how this would be accepted in the congregational world. And there was a great difficulty when we first began recruiting women for the cantorate to overcome the hurdle of ignorance that this entailed.
I'm surprised that it started with me. I think it's such a logical career choice for a Jewish woman.
Barbara Ostfeld-Horowitz was the one to take this historical step. And although the example she set was followed gradually, now more women are entering the field than men. Male or female, a cantor's primary responsibility remains as musical leader of the congregation.
In years past, the cantor was called upon to serve primarily in the capacity of a shliach tzibur, a leader of prayer, to providing that aesthetic quality, that expressive, affective component to counterbalance the traditional cognitive or intellectual component provided by the rabbinate. I think you're seeing a profession in flux. Many of our cantors are called upon to serve, in addition to that capacity, as counselors, as teachers, as educators, administrators.
And they also serve in the full range of life cycle events of the congregation. We see cantors naming babies.
And as Jordan Melissa is wrapped in the fold of this talit, so may...
Conducting weddings. And comforting the bereaved. Cantor Sheldon Merrill just retired from his congregation in San Diego. He graduated from the Hebrew Union College's School of Sacred Music in 1952. In the 40-plus years of his cantorate, he's developed special relationships with congregants, touching their lives as a clergyman.
How are you feeling? Pretty good.
I feel that I could always go to him with any problem or problems we will have, and he will finish our life cycle, my husband and I, when we are buried. Let us hope that he will still be alive at that time. I feel a bond, we feel a bond with him that we could not have with many other people.
That is the greatest reward, and I feel a rich man because they can make this kind of testimonial.
Sometimes the music cantors sing touches people's emotions, taking them back to another time and place.
I know each one is carrying inside him or herself their life, and the music can bring them to those places that aren't there anymore but are there.
Chaplaincy is a new area for cantors, such as counseling a patient in a hospital.
My life is a sped now, and anything that helps me get through the day is manna from heaven, you know. And you came in so friendly, and you sang me a song. In fact, you've been a few times and always ended up with a song.
It's become our ritual, hasn't it?
Yes.
Or in the cantor's office.
So how's your son doing?
He, we definitely
or in one of the least likely places you'd expect to see a cantor, a prison. Cantor Nancy Ginsburg is one of the chaplains at a maximum security penitentiary. She, like many cantors, has taken advanced counseling courses and received a degree in social work.
Nancy recognizes that although we may be within a prison wall, we're Jews, we're human beings, and she treats us as such.
With the cantorate becoming professionalized and expanding in different directions, many congregations that previously hired soloists just to lead services are realizing the importance of an invested cantor as another clergy person. Case in point, Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore is actually a model city for the cantorate right now. For the first time, all of Baltimore's Reform cantors are professionally trained, having been either invested or certified. The newest cantor in town is here at Har Sinai congregation, Cantor Rhoda Harrison.
When the congregation's associate rabbi left, they engaged Cantor Harrison to fulfill many of the clergy responsibilities.
We felt for our particular needs at this particular moment in time, a full-time invested cantor was the best for us. It brings a different dimension to what we've been able to do. I can see already that someone who has the kind of training that our cantor has a much more depth and breadth of what Jewish music and Jewish music possibilities are all about.
It's not just the music, it's the Judaism and the people all together, but I think they're so interconnected, I'm not sure I can break them apart. It's all a unit that brought me here.
Connecting people with their religion, with their Judaism, also means reaching out to bring more people into synagogues. One way cantors do that is through volunteer choirs.
I started a volunteer choir in my congregation in the middle of Manhattan, where everybody has such demands on their lives. They do 85 other things all of the time. And yet I have created a 50-member volunteer choir that come weekly for rehearsals.
In many cases, volunteer choirs, under the direction of a cantor, become so good that they want to take their music beyond the worship service. Whether they perform in concert, bringing Jewish music to the general community, or they are invited to sing outside the synagogue, it has an effect that goes beyond the pure enjoyment of music, especially during interfaith programs.
Through music, you can do tremendous relationships in terms of intercommunity or interreligious relationships.
Part of the cantor's function to reach out, to involve Jews in their religion, is to educate young people. This important task has a lasting effect as it helps preserve Judaism into the next century.
That's what becoming a bar and bat mitzvah is all about. You come before the congregation and you say to the congregation, I now take my stand with the Jewish people and the Jewish religion.
A big part of our job is to help kids to establish or to develop positive Jewish identity, a positive sense of themselves as Jews.
The Torah will be given to you. Okay, you turn around and face the congregation. And the rabbi will be standing next to you at this point, okay? He'll have his book opened to here, and you read here.
In this scroll is the secret of our people's life, from Sinai until now.
How emotional and difficult it is at age 13 with the pressure of becoming a bar or bat mitzvah. This is a significant period for teenagers because it's at this time when ties to religion are either strengthened or weakened.
And we will walk down with the Torah, straight down, and we'll go over to the Torah stand.
I realized
at that point
a while back that as much as I created the relationship with the kids and I helped them to have a positive experience, a lot of them dropped out after bar or bat mitzvah. Would be maybe 10% a year.
The challenge for us as cantors who work so closely with the children at this time in their lives is to somehow tap into that excitement that they have on that day as a culmination of all the study and preparation, and they're so in touch with who they are as Jews on the day of their bar and bat mitzvah.
Yehamincha Adonai. Yehamincha Adonai. No, you're making it one word. It's not Yehamincha Adonai. That's wrong. It should be Yehamincha Adonai, right?
Yehamincha.
That was right.
Adonai.
And sometimes the relationships that cantors build up with young people can be so inspirational that many have gone on to commit their lives to Judaism, like Rabbi Donald Berlin.
My first real inspiration in terms of my evolution as a Jew, and in some ways as one who wanted to lead services, came from not one but more than one cantor.
Stephen Weiss and Eileen Keyes are now studying to be cantors at the Hebrew Union College. They both feel indebted to their cantors for having found their true calling.
I have to repay everything that my cantor and the Jewish leaders of my congregation did for me, and this is how I feel I can do that.
I love helping and working with other people, and becoming a cantor opens every door for me.
Stephen Weiss's cantor was none other than Barbara Ostfeld Horowitz, the first woman cantor, and she was influenced by her cantor, Martin Rosen.
I knew from the time that I was 8 years old that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do for children what he had done for me and for the other kids who were in the children's choir. And I never wavered in that.
3 generations of people who have devoted their lives to the cantorate. All are examples of the new age of seminary-trained cantors. When Steve graduates, he will take a position in a synagogue as a cantor, as a member of the clergy. He, like cantors of today, will be involved in all aspects of Jewish life, leading services, naming babies, marrying couples, visiting the sick, and burying the dead. And as the world changes, so will the cantorate of tomorrow. It will be different and more complex, ever responding to the needs of congregations of the future. But with this inevitable change, one thing is for certain. The calling will never end. It will always be a calling for today and a calling for tomorrow.
רצית בו וקירשתו שבת, חמדת ים